This is my friend Jack.
Hi.
And as you can see, he's filling up his
Vacuum pump.
with oil.
Make sure you get the right oil though for these vacuum pumps.
And this is the man of many tools. And show him the oil that it requires. Basically, this is the oil that goes into the vacuum.
Hold on, oops. Okay.
That's what we wound up getting this at the AutoZone.
So Don, can you back up a little bit and explain to everybody exactly what you...
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let Jack explain it because he's more of an expert.
Right, but what's the issue? What are you here for?
All right, so it starts off, basically I did a lot of work on this Jeep and I disconnected the air conditioning probably about 2 to 3 years ago. So currently we need to recharge the system. So first we're going to vacuum pump the system, evacuate it fully and put it into vacuum. And Jack has this pump. It takes oil.
I think you need to speak louder.
What's that?
Speak louder, because the fan.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the vacuum pump in the back requires oil. So we're putting some oil in to get the levels up to where it's supposed to be.
All right. So
I've used the system so many times that I've run down on oil. That's the reason why I had to refill the pump before I was going to use it again.
And this is a man that's not even his career.
That's right. He is the best optometrist on Long Island,
Yes,
everybody. The best.
The best. If you need eyeglasses, yes.
So educate me, guys. Why do you have to put a vacuum on the system to begin with?
All right. Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, so the system, you won't get normal cold air, good cold air, if there's any moisture in the system.
Okay.
We need to have this system totally dry before we start. What we're doing by putting vacuum pressure, by putting this vacuum pump on the car, it ends up lowering the pressure in the system, so we end up basically boiling all of the moisture out of the car. It gets sucked through this pump.
Okay. And then that way you can get a true understanding of whether or not you have a leak.
Right. Well,
Gotcha.
you can tell whether it's a leak, or if it's not leaking, which is what we need. You want the system will be dry, and then we can put the refrigerant back in, and the refrigerant will cool the car as cold as can possibly be.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So basically, also too, if I do have a leak, it will never go down in vacuum, so that will diagnose that we have a leak. The other thing too is, like Jack said, it's pulling out all the moisture, because what happens with moisture, it turns to ice and it will clog your system from circulating the Freon throughout, and it won't work. It won't even work. So you need to get the moisture out of the system.
We need to get the system down to 30 psi.
Okay.
We need to get it down to 30, and we kind of want it there for about 20 to 30 minutes to make sure we get all the moisture out of the system.
Okay. And so that's what you're about to do.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to swing around you.
If this doesn't get down to 30 psi, we're not even wasting our time putting the refrigerant in, because basically we've lost $20 to $30 just pouring the refrigerant in and out of the system.
We're not going to waste our time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a key factor in knowing whether you have a leak or not too, also.
Okay.
So, in my position in this vehicle is, all along I sort of like maintain, put the stuff back correctly in hopes to do the charging the system and having it working again. But my attitude though is also, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time looking for leaks. So if it works, well, I'm going to put Freon in. If it doesn't work, well then this job ends real early today.
Okay. All right. Gloves are on. It looks like you guys are ready for business.
Yes.
Okay. What? All right. What?
Now the first thing which we're doing, we're working with refrigerant. If this stuff gets into your eye, you'll be blind.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm taking off my regular glasses, putting on a pair of Z87.1 safety glasses. If you notice, John has yellow glasses on. I usually buy yellow glasses.
I'm more or less the system today. So.
Right.
Okay.
I usually buy yellow because sometimes you can put a dye in the system to look to see if there's a leak. If you use a blue light with yellow glasses, it really makes the dye jump out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's why I always have a lot of extra yellow glasses for working around refrigerant.
And Jack, can you buy them on Amazon, the
AutoZone,
auto store?
Home Depot.
Okay.
They're $1. You can get them on sale at Harbor Freight for under $2 a pair.
Wow. Okay,
For
great.
the under two, you'll be very sorry if you're not wearing them and you get this stuff in your eye for the coulda, shoulda, woulda spent under $2 to do that.
Sounds like it. So
All right, so that's why I'm wearing these ugly glasses because I feel like because I know I'm gonna
no,
be
no,
able to
no.
work tomorrow.
Great advice.
Now the first thing we have to do is hook up our gauges here to the pump, and then we need to hook them up to the system.
Okay.
So basically, it's usually middle line.
The one thing I like.
this port here.
The one thing I like about this pump over here is that it allows you to put hoses on for an R134 system or an R12 system. I know R12 is obsolete at this point, but it still allows you to use the same pump for the same job. These can be purchased pretty cheap for under $100 if you're doing a lot of air conditioning work. I've done a lot of cars. I don't know whether you can rent them from AutoZone or Advance Auto or O'Reilly's or any of those places. I do think they are, but they do have them as loaner tools. If you're doing a lot, about $100, it's worth the money.
Sounds like. How about those gauges?
Gauges I bought at AutoZone also. You can buy them at AutoZone. You can buy them at your local auto parts shop. You can buy them anywhere online. O'Reilly's and all the other big places.
This is actually good for commercial, like if you had to do air conditioning for a house or something too.
All right. Sounds like John's going to be buying himself
Actually,
some
I could use a
gauges.
set of gauges myself. Actually, that's half the problem too. I don't really have the tools.
All right.
Now that we got the pump hooked up,
Yep.
now we have to hook up the two lines to the car.
Okay.
There's a high line and a low line. The red line is the high line. The blue line is the low line. The one thing which I like about our 134A systems is that you can't really mix up the hoses because they only fit one way.
Nice.
Oh, that was smart.
Right.
Smart design.
We need to find our ports on the car where we're going to start hooking up the lines.
Okay.
On this car, the ports happen to be over here.
Okay.
I don't know
Let's see
you
if I can.
I
I'm
don't
going
know if you can zoom in on
I'm
that.
going to zoom in. Yep. Okay. Should I zoom back out?
Now you can go back to his hand and you can show how those knobs work.
First, you want to start with this knob screwed all the way out.
Okay.
What we're going to do is snap them on top of those fittings over there.
Okay.
So, John, if you want to take this here, this pulls back and it snaps over the top of that fitting. You can try it. You're going to see that one's not going to fit. That's not fitting.
Nope.
That's what I love about these.
See, so this
R12.
would be the low side would be right here. Low.
You know, years ago, we're always taught the thinner line is the high line and the thicker line is the low line, but none of us really remembered that. None of us figured it out. We had accidents. With the R134 system, since like 1996, I think they came into being, they made life a lot easier for fixing your air conditioning system. Okay, good.
Okay.
Now the next thing I'm going to do is close the valves on this, on this what's called the AC manifold.
Okay.
I'm going to close these off. What we're going to do next is turn the vacuum pump on over here. So we're starting to get some suction.
Okay. Should I
I'm going
zero
to-
in on the valves?
Yes.
Okay.
What we're going to do now is open up the valve a little bit. And now we're going to turn those valves, now we're going to turn those knobs down on the hoses, turn them all the way down to open up the Schrader valve and inside the system.
Doesn't matter which one you do first.
Right. Don't make it tight, just make it connecting.
Okay.
Once you feel it contacting, it's opening up the valve inside the system.
Okay.
Now we're starting to get some suction into the system. What we want here is for this arrow to be at 30.
Okay.
We've already hit 29.
Is that a good sign?
That's good.
Okay.
Actually, we're about 29 3/4 at this point, from what I'm seeing.
That's a good sign.
And that's a good sign?
Yeah, because once we hit 30, we're starting to evacuate moisture from the system.
Okay.
We've already hit 30.
Yeah,
Wow.
good. So that's a
So-
good.
That's a good sign.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get this thing working.
Here's the biggest thing. We can't do anything for the next 20 to 30 minutes. We want this fluid out of the system. If
Okay.
you have other jobs to do during the day, go do them now.
Okay, just come back to this.
Come back to this
in a
about
half an
30
hour.
About a half hour.
Awesome.
Let the fluid suck down, and we're off to a good start because I like the numbers on this
Good.
Awesome.
so far.
Very happy. That means all the little.
Yay! That means John's going to get air conditioning back.
My heater core was a success, and then and a lot of that involves when you do those jobs, you got to put those little O-rings back correctly, like the condenser. Actually, we have a video for the condenser too, so
We
we
do.
can now utilize that also. So I did the condenser as I did the radiator because I said futuristic-wise, I would want to have AC, and the other one was so corroded, there was no way it was going to work for it.
All right, so we'll be back in a half an hour. So, Jack, we're at the 20-minute mark.
Yes.
What's your assessment?
Okay, so far so good because the gauge is still reading 30 psi.
Okay.
So that means that the system has been holding the pressure like it's supposed to.
Great. Yep.
Yeah, holding it back.
And so, shutting it off?
Well, I'm closing these valves here because I don't want air coming through this at this point.
Okay.
Now that I've closed these valves off, there's no air going past these points right here.
Okay.
The system is still holding the normal 30 psi,
Yeah.
which tells me that this system is not losing pressure.
And that's a good sign.
And that's a good sign because that means if we put refrigerant in, it's not coming right back out on us.
Great. Okay.
So at this point, we can start adding the refrigerant. So word to the wise, make sure you know where your parts are because I just spent 20 minutes looking for this thing laying around on the floor. So what I'm doing is I shut the hoses off as I showed you before,
Yep.
so that the vacuum pressure is held.
Okay.
Again, you can still see it's at 30.
Yep.
I'm shutting my vacuum pump off over here.
Okay.
Now because these valves are shut off, the vacuum that was put into the system is not coming back out, and that's why it's still holding at 30, and that's why I'm happy that we can start going to the next step, which is to put the refrigerant back into the car. When we're putting the refrigerant into the car, we need to start the car and put the air conditioning on high. So John's going to turn the car on, start the car up, and put the air conditioning on high.
Okay, starting up, ready?
Go ahead. So now, you back this valve off all the way before you start off. This is going to pinch against the little hole on the top of the can to release the refrigerant.
Okay.
I'm using a UV leak detector on my system
Okay.
because it'll help me to find if there are any leaks anywhere in the car. Screw the can onto the can tap. Once it's tight, I can open up my valves here.
Okay.
And I'm getting a reading now on the system. I start pushing my can tap down, this pin on my can tap, and you'll notice the gauge has started to move.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And any second, I'm going to hear a clicking noise from my air conditioning compressor right over here. What? Yeah, max. I don't know if you can see this here. This is my air conditioning compressor flush. Right now, it's not moving because there's no refrigerant. Now it turned on.
Yeah.
Which tells me that the refrigerant is starting to go into the car.
And you're holding the can up high because gravity?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
Years ago, we were always told if you put the can upside down, it's going to get the fluid out a little bit.
Okay. Why did John hit the gas? Is there a reason?
Yeah, it speeds up the engine.
Okay.
The vacuum will start pulling the start pulling the refrigerant into the car.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you look here on this gauge, you can see some bubbling going on in there, in that tube.
Yeah.
When that bubbles, that means that the refrigerant is leaving the can and going into the system. Compressor is continuing to run, which is a good thing. Starting to feel some coolant. You're starting to feel some cool temperature inside the car.
Oh, good.
So that means we're starting to get some refrigerant into the car.
Okay. So now, why do the dials show different?
This is the low pressure, and that's the high pressure.
Okay, and that's normal.
Yeah.
What you're seeing? Okay.
Yes. Now the numbers that I'm looking for here,
Yeah. Let me zero in.
I'm using this inner scale over here. This inner scale,
Yep.
not the outer scale. I'm looking for somewhere between like 35 on the low scale. And I'd like to see this number a little bit more like around the 150.
Okay.
This can is empty now. So I'm going to put another can of refrigerant in.
Okay.
Before I'm going to put the refrigerant in, I have to close this valve off. Because once I remove this can, if I didn't close these valves off, then what I just put in is coming right back
Oh,
out.
jeez. Okay.
You back this tap off first. You back the tap off first. And always make sure that you're opening this away from yourself just in case some little poof comes out like that. Put one more can in and then we should be good. Again, I screwed the cap on here. Push the tap down. Open the valve.
So, Jack, would you say 2 cans is average of
Yeah.
what someone would need
Yes.
if they're doing this job? Okay.
On the sticker over here, it tells you how much refrigerant you really need to put into the car. It'll start to get to a point where the car really doesn't want to take any more refrigerant, and the compressor is continuing to run over here. The next thing becomes a subjective test, and feel like it's getting cold inside the car.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is step inside the car and see really quick how my hand feels. All right, we're starting to get some coolness inside the car. I'm going to go inside and check the temperature with my temperature gauge in just a minute. Once I can figure out where John put it.
Welcome to my world.
Check the temperatures with my temperature gauge here. I'm coming up with 63 degrees temperature. Everything's blowing ice cold, so it looks like we're pretty good to go here.
Awesome.
What I'm doing is I'm closing off the vents here.
Okay.
I'm closing off the valves here. So that the next thing I can do is take those caps off the line, and then we're good to go. What I do is back off these valves a little bit,
Okay.
and then just lift up one of the clips. Pull back on the clips, and they're disconnected.
Okay.
And now my system is good to go. The last thing we're going to do is put our caps back on top of the high and low valves over here.
Okay.
But before we do that, I wanted to show you one other thing. If you want to use a leak detector in your car, you can buy the can that says AC leak detector with the leak detector in it. What's going to happen is it's going to look like it's going to look like something blue, and there's going to look like something yellow coming out of the lines if there's something leaking.
Mm-hmm.
What you need is the yellow glasses that John had on,
Okay.
and a black light. With that, you can see if there's anything leaking out. I'm going to give you an idea what it looks like on one of the lines over here.
Okay. So I'm gonna take I'm just gonna hold the phone then so I can get close to you.
Right.
Okay.
Come over here. We don't have any leaks in the system, but I want
Yeah.
to kind of demonstrate to you on the can what it looks like.
All right.
So if you come close to the can,
Yep.
can you see that yellow in the middle of the can, that yellow dot in the middle of the can?
Yes.
I'd be looking for that all along these refrigerant pipes here. I would take this, I'd be wearing these yellow glasses,
Okay.
and I would start taking this black light in the dark. I would take these black lights in the dark and look along to see if I find any leaks. I don't see anything as I'm looking over here.
And what color would it be if you saw leaks?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay.
But like I said, you just take the black light and just look along the line to see if you find anything yellow. And if you find something yellow,
Then you know you have
then
a
you know
leak.
you have a leak.
Gotcha.
So that's how you look for,
Awesome.
A leak.
All right. But it looks like John
looks
does
like
not
we're
have a
good.
leak.
Looks like we're good, so we're done.
And you should have air conditioning for the rest of the summer.
Yes.
You're the best, Jack.
Thanks.